Let's start. Today we will see how to implement the data binding in Java Android. Data binding binds the UI components with the respective data model. So when the data in the model is changed, the UI gets updated automatically. Similarly, when the UI is updated by the user, the data in the model gets updated automatically. So the data binding can be a two-way bond. Let's see the project structure. In the app-level build.gradle file, set data binding as true. Here we have the main activity, a second activity, a fragment, and a model class called user. And in the UI, we have the respective layout files of these classes. Let's see the user model class first, as it will be used in the UI layouts. Here we have a string data called name, and its setter-getter functions. Let's see the UI. In the activity_main.xml file, we have two buttons and two text views. Let's see the code. We will bind this layout file to the user model class. To implement the data binding, the root layout must be the layout tag. Inside the layout tag, we have a data tag. Here we will define which data model will be bounded with this layout file, and what kind of data will this layout file can access. First, we declare that we are going to use a list type data with this layout file. Then we declare a variable called user which is of type user data model class. Then we declare a variable called list which is of type list of strings. Then we declare a variable called index which is of type integer. This variable can be used to access the list elements by the index. Then we declare a variable called listeners which is of type main activity. We have declared the data that we are going to use with the UI layout file. Let's see the actual UI now. This is the constraint layout. This is the text view. Here the text data will come from the name variable of the user model class. If we write it equals to something something, that means this is a two-way data binding. So when the user data model is changed, this text view will get updated automatically. And when this text view is changed, the user data model class will be updated automatically. If we remove the equals to sign, that means it is a one-way data binding. So when the user data model is changed, this text view will get updated automatically, but not vice versa in this case. We will use two-way data binding. So I have written the equals to sign here. This is the second text view. Here the text data will come from the list of strings. This is the click button. The onClick listener is set to a function called showUser. This function is defined in the main activity. So to access this function, we have used the listener variable which is of type main activity. This is go to the second activity button. The onClick listener is set to the go to second activity function. This function is written in the main activity, so we have used the listener variable to access this function, as the listener variable is of type main activity. In the activity_second.xml file, the layout tag is the root layout. This constraint layout will act as the container for showing a fragment in it. This is the fragment_blank.xml file. Here the layout tag is the root layout. Then we have a data tag, where we would declare what kind of data will be bounded with this fragment. Here we have a variable called user which is of type user data model class. In the UI, we have this constraint layout. Inside the constraint layout, we have this text view. The text data comes from the name variable in the user data model class. Let's see the Java code now. These are the imports. This is the main activity. This is the data member. When we enable the data binding in the Gradle file and build the project once, then this activity main binding class will be created by the Android system itself. The name of such binding classes is exactly opposite to the activity and fragment classes. As our activity's name is the main activity, so the binding class's name is the activity main binding class. In the onCreate function, we set the binding variable with the respective layout file. Then we set the binding listeners, which are important for the button onClick listeners. This is the showUser function. This function will be called by the onClick button, as defined in the layout file. First, we make some changes in the user data model class. Then we updated these changes onto the UI like this, so now the respective text view which accepts this user model data will be updated automatically. Here we have created a list of strings like this. Then we update the respective UI like this. This text view accepts the list of strings as a text, so this text view will now be updated automatically. This is the goToSecondActivity function. This function is called by the goToSecondActivity button in the layout file. These are the imports. This is the second activity. This is the data member. This binding class is created by the Android system itself. In the onCreate function, we set the binding variable with the respective layout file. Then we call the load_fragment function. This is how we load the blank fragment class in this second activity. These are the imports. This is the blank fragment class. This is the data member. This binding class is created by the Android system itself. In the onCreateView function, we set the binding variable with the respective layout file. Then we make some changes in the user data model class. And here we bind these changes to the respective layout. So this text view will be updated automatically as it accepts its text data from this user data class. Let's run the app. As you can see, when I clicked the click button, we made some changes in the user class and a list of strings. And those changes got reflected in the text views over here via data binding. And when I went to the blank fragment, we again made some changes to the user data model class. And those changed got reflected in this text view. Until now, we have just used the one-way data binding. To demonstrate the two-way data binding, I will modify this function a little bit. We will no longer go to the second activity from here. Instead, I will make some changes in the text view data over here. According to the two-data binding principle, since we have made changes in the UI, the data model class should have been updated automatically. Let's check if the data model class is updated accordingly or not by showing its value in a toast. So when I click this Go to Second Activity button, the text view value should be changed like this. And simultaneously the data model class should be updated automatically, and that would be shown in a toast. Let's run the app again. As you can see, when I clicked the click button, we made changes in the data model class, and the text view UI got updated via data binding. And when I clicked the Go to Second Activity button, we made changes in the text view data itself, and the data model class got updated automatically via two-way data binding. So that's it. That's how you can implement the data binding in the Java Android. Thanks for watching.